and voted. So we got to blame ourselves. The people who didn't vote and the Democratic Party got to take the blame because they were trying. I call them misogynists. They don't like women. And they don't want a woman leader. So they sabotage her. I tell the girl break, but no about that woman. The woman was real bright. And
that part of Verla's manifesto was to remove the garbage and sewage tax. If elected, that was one of the pledges in the manifesto. And rightfully so, this tax should be removed because it's illegal. One, it's a slush fund for anybody to dip the hand in. Two, people just taking it and playing it and do whatever they like with it. Three, and poor people can't get no relief from a tax that probably should have never been there in the first place. So I just wanted to agree with Caswell and just to enforce the Verla issue and give her some credit for having the foresight for asking for this tax to be removed.
So Belgians shot themselves in the foot, they listen to the snake oil salesman run around the place talking about she cares. She cares about the national community. She cares about out there grandstanding and Macron and all those kind of monkey people. They getting about the people out here. And when you care about somebody, you just show it. Her behavior shows that she cares about anybody in Barbados. It don't appear so to me. But we had politicians that talk pretty, and people thought, oh man, they good, he could talk pretty. But she talks pretty too. A lot of pretty nonsense. But it sounds good. And people like that. Trust me when they tell you. Analyze the speech and see it don't make a lot of sense. Full of cliches. I say that to say this and all kind of monkey cliches that but they don't actually the speech don't even run logically, it ran from one point to the next, halfway through delivering back in a point, she cuts into another one because
but you know that
she don't break them.
you know that she has successfully asked Barbadians to pay the highest levels of taxation ever in the history of this country. We actually made $650 million in surplus. So they collected $650 million more in taxation on the backs of people since they came in agreement with their IMF targets. And I know the people felt that, but like you said, we had people who were comfortable paying these levels of taxation that they actually went back to the polls and voted back in 2011.
So they just must blame themselves. And I am going to tell them so all the time. I'm going to remind them that they did themselves a disservice when they put only one party in power in Barbados. It was hurting the country then, and it's hurting them worse even now because they don't listen. If they had an opposition in Parliament, at least somebody would have got up and said something, But no, we listen to the snake oil salesmen one around the place talking pretty, lot of pretty nonsense, no substance, but people like it. You got some pretty. And all of it was done illegally because they spent too much money on their campaign. And now these same people who broke every law in this country to get elected, now talking about integrity of public life. Oh, give me a break.
Yeah. Well, Caswell, we this is I'm sitting here just quiet listening, and I'm saying, I have notes. I make notes. I'm serious because ever since today, I knew what we were going to talk about. I was sat down and tried to make notes because I'm learning, and I don't think the average Barbadian knows about all of this. And that is why so many people log on each night, because they're learning, they understand. And I've been saying that. Once Barbadians understand, Lynette, once they understand what is going on, I believe that they're going to react. And Saturday, we are going to be out there. Yes, we are going to be, when we're out there, we're specifically dealing with the NIS, and we're not giving up that. Like the Montgomery boycott that lasted 13 months. Okay? We are not going to stop until the age goes back to 65 and we get the 500 contributions right back to where it was, and all the other things, 12 things we're asking for. So those of you who are listening, all of you that's on, we need all of you, once you're in Barbados, to come out. Those who are overseas, do something overseas and let the government know that you're going to stick with the elderly. You're for poor people, right? You are for poor people. No, Lynette, you listen and hearing all of this. What's your thoughts? What are your thoughts?
Well, you keep asking the question, what can be done about all of this? Um, I really think if you have a democracy, the only way a democracy can really work effectively is if you have a core group of people, a certain percentage, um, who which is interested in following all of these issues and then sharing them with their friends, colleagues, family. You may do it informally. Some may do it formally, and some may do it informally. But it really goes back to the people, and that's what democracies are about. If you see, I don't think the democracy story was fulfilled after universal adult suffrage, where everybody got the right to vote. But I don't think that the lesson was taught that in addition to the right to vote, there is a responsibility. There's a responsibility to ensure that your country is being run as it should. And even individuals who have had the highest level of education in Barbados, many of them do not understand that. They truly believe that you go there and vote, they figure that's their civic duty, and after that they go back to doing whatever they were doing before the election. And it's just not possible. You can't run a democracy like that. We should have different groups of people interested in promoting every aspect of Barbadian life that requires intervention by the government. Every single aspect, there should be somebody pushing every single aspect. Many of the pieces of legislation we have, they don't come from the people. They don't come because a number of people have been discussing. That has happened before, but I'm seeing it less now. Our legislation seems to be coming because there's some push from abroad for it, not from us. And that means that we are probably even um, slipping back further in terms of a democracy. But really, it really is about the people, and I think that's the message that everybody has to get across. Um,
Mhm.
the idea of having a duty to do these things should be inculcated from primary school. Really, that
Mhm.
duty,
Mhm.
because many people don't see it as a duty, and it is a duty. It is a duty as a citizen.
Mhm. Mhm.
Look,
Now,
you see,
thank
this is
you.
what they're teaching the children to do from small. The children from small, they're teaching how to get behind big women and walk up. That is what they want to teach their children to do. They don't want to teach them how to be responsible citizens. They want to make them creeps, you know, because when you're like that, you can be manipulated easily. That is what we call fight. You know, and I don't want to even talk about it anymore because it turned my stomach when I saw it the first time. I, I, I held my lunch down when I saw it. That's
But
because,
the funny thing
look,
is, this isn't the first year that that has happened. So I'm just amazed that, well, every year people are going to come and behave as though they're shocked. What actually happens on the road when this is going on? Is there nobody? If I were there, I would intervene and say, stop doing that. It might let me down, but I would do it. So, you know, you had hundreds of people there. How did that happen? How did those things happen? Because people
Because there
don't feel
were
that they have a duty anymore. You know, back in the day, you know, somebody would curse that person and say, look, try and got respect for each other and respect for yourself. That couldn't go on. But all these, all, you know, in the Barbados in which we live now, these things have become the norm and people seem to feel it's a joke. But this isn't the first year. That's what I'm saying. It's not the first year. So why is everybody getting all if they're shocked? What they should be doing is preventing it from happening again.
now I am shocked because
And
I never take part in crop over. I don't even watch. I used to live in King Everywhere Bank Hall, and the bands used to pass double my God. I never saw a single person on the street because I didn't come out my front door. I have no interest in it. I know it was a vile way of to control the people. This what this is all about. Get the people mindless to walk up in the street and the politicians could sail through. That was the original intent of crop over when after they had the first march from the garrison to the stadium. When the politicians saw how that was working out, they said, "Look, and let me give you people things to jump up at." And after that, you got National Cultural Foundation to make it an institution and tell lies about the origins of it and all kind of stuff because you wanted to keep the people off your back. You don't want the people educated and informed. And now this government is even making it worse. Everything that they have, name something that they open that they didn't have a walk up, jump up thing at. You know, nothing cultural, nothing.
getting your mind away from everything. But
Yeah,
tonight, the good thing about this show is, you know, Caswell, is that we try to educate, and you know, people are on, and if they're like me, I'm making notes and I'm trying to understand. So tonight, Lynette wants to talk to us about the integrity in public life bill. She did a beautiful session which we had some difficulty connecting with. So I'm gonna, Lynette, can you share your thoughts on the integrity in public life bill that was passed today
Yeah.
in the Senate?
Marcia, if you don't mind, just want to ask Lynette a quick question
Mm.
before she jumped in to yeah, right. You said that we are getting bills not originating from locally but being inspired from abroad. No, I just wanted to ask, do you see it possible that in the lead up to the general election in 2018, we saw Barbados receiving downgrade after downgrade. We saw Barbados getting advisory after advisory. We saw Barbados even getting advisories on water. There were advisories on crime. I mean, it seemed to be a international push to degrade and downgrade Barbados. But to me, a lot of the factors that these international institutions criticize Barbados on have gotten substantially worse. But I do not see that same drive or that same energy to get it and degrade and downgrade Barbados. So I was thinking that maybe the international world has a preference of administration. Maybe I don't know, but I wanted your perspective and feedback on that.
You mean that at that point in time, it seemed as though Barbados was not only in crisis, but in a chaotic crisis where you didn't know what was going to happen. And the truth is, um, not much has changed. But I said to someone, how could it be possible that in the major economic sectors appear to be in decline? Even when tourism is doing well, Barbados still used to struggle. How is it possible now that these international agencies could be saying that Barbados is doing well? It seems strange to me. I mean, I am always actually very worried about Barbados because I don't see us I don't see us getting into anything new. You always have to look for new industries of some kind. whether goods or services, you have to look for something. I don't see us doing that. And I wonder, but I was saying this to someone and they explained it to me this way, that if you set out criteria for someone to follow and they're following it, just like if you're a teacher, if you tell the students this is what you have to do, but then if this is what they have to do, but you will have to give them a good grade. So I believe that that is the situation in Barbados, because they're following step by step exactly what was recommended. They get a passing grade. They don't get a failing grade. So that has to be what is happening. It can't be anything else. So that's my view. They're ticking the box and getting a passing grade. A lot of these pieces of legislation are to fulfill somebody's criteria. You know, we were here all this time and they weren't done. And now there's a mad rush to push through several different pieces of legislation. And when you look at some of them, you see that they're generated because of some international agreement or declaration or something that we signed on to maybe 20 years ago, but we didn't see it fit to implement them until now. So all of a sudden, we want to make sure we tick the box, everything that the international community requires. That's how it seems to me.
Yeah. Now, we want a lot of people told me they're coming on to learn about the integrity in public life bill and to understand it, because a lot of Barbadians just don't understand a lot of these things. So I want you to go start with your presentation, Ms. Eastman.
Okay, I had sent my PowerPoint, but
Yes, it's
okay,
coming up.
is
It's
it?
coming
Oh, it's
up.
coming out. Okay.
Yes. It will soon be up. Guys, as we are waiting for the PowerPoint to come up, I hope don't fall asleep, Listen, make sure you have something to write in, all right?
But
And you're ready to go.
I'm sure Caswell and Caswell will jump in to keep it exciting.
The general. Folks, Saturday, remember why we're out there on Saturday. Remember why we're out there on Saturday and how important it is for you to be out there. We're not stopping. We're not stopping until we get the 65 and we get back to 500 contributions, and they are retiring when we retiring. All right, those are our basic things. We have about 9 more things there that we want to see happen. Okay, over to you, Ms. Eastman.
Okay, so we're looking at the Integrity in Public Life bill this evening. It passed the Senate, and so therefore it still has to go to the president, and it has to be proclaimed before it actually becomes law. So what I will seek to do is to give an overview of the bill, so that that you can conceptualize what it's about as opposed to looking at specific sections. So the purpose of the bill is to establish a regime for integrity and public life. That's to establish the regime to strengthen measures to detect, investigate, and prosecute acts of corruption, to alter sections of the act if necessary, in to be consistent with the Constitution. So basically, that's the purpose of the bill. The purpose of the bill is to ensure that we have a system that will help us to detect corruption in Barbados and to prosecute it. So in the next slide, there's the next slide coming up. I thought I would have a look at what are possible examples of corruption, because I know sometimes there's a bit of difficulty in us determining the difference between corruption and asking a favor. As I was saying to somebody today, and they disagreed with me, I think, usually when a public official is involved in corruption, quite often, there are two parties involved, especially if there's a politician involved. There are usually two parties. That is the public official. And then in addition to that, there's usually somebody in the private sector who is encouraging the politician to act in that particular way, or there's somebody in the private sector who is gaining a benefit along with the politician. So a corrupt act can range from the ones we probably think about most, that you offer somebody a contract to build a road, and then you get a kickback, a 10%. I don't know what the percentage is, a 1% or 5% of the value of the contract, because you help to facilitate them in getting the contract. At the other end is a Barbadian asking a politician or somebody they know in the Ministry of Education, for example, to help them to get a scholarship for their child. You know, to perhaps let them know what scholarships are coming up. And sometimes in those cases, the idea would be to let the child get the scholarship without competing with other Barbadians. It is also seen to be corruption when there's no government policy that is followed, say, for example, with respect to housing, where you will get housing because you know the member of parliament, or your sister knows the member of parliament. Now, the reason that these are considered to be corrupt acts is because we're living in a democracy. And when you live in a democracy, it is expected that there will be equality and fairness. So if you are going to succeed, if your child is going to get the scholarship simply because you know somebody and not because they're the best Barbadian to get the scholarship, well, then that is a measure of corruption as well. So what happens in Barbados is that we start from the position that you're just asking for a little help with something. And then from there, it mushrooms. As I have said before, I remember reading an article a long time ago by a former Australian Prime Minister, and they had introduced very serious measures with respect to corruption. And he said that he was happy about that because it meant then that he did not have this moral struggle every day with individuals every day asking for something which morally he felt he should not do, but which he probably should do if he wants to continue to be successful at the polls. So he said when the legislation was put in place, all he had to say was, no, I am sorry, but you know the legislation does not allow for that now, and there are penalties such as imprisonment. So that is, no, I know most people instinctively don't want to hear that it is both the politician and somebody in the society who you have together engaging in corruption. Most individuals just want to hear about the side with the politician. But if, like if we're going forward and we're really serious, we have to not only talk about our rights, but we have to talk about our responsibilities. And we have to talk about what our duties are as citizens. And every time we want to jump the queue over another Barbadian, that is an act of corruption in itself. So I will move on to the next slide. So there's a structure for administration and enforcement. In terms of what the bill is trying to achieve, there's a structure. So at the top of the structure, not at the top, but maybe side and side. So you have the president. The president is involved in this process. The president has a tribunal, and it is similar to the actual integrity commission. Now, the reason that this is the case is because there's some specified individuals who make their declarations not to the integrity commission, but they make their declarations to this panel, which is established by the president. So when I talk about the declarations, etc., remember that this particular piece of legislation, this particular piece, is dealing with integrity in public life. So it is talking about ensuring the integrity of public officers. And public officers include judges, it includes heads of department, directors on boards, etc. These are all public officers. And the method by which you're going to try to ensure their integrity is to make sure that they disclose what they have, their assets, their liabilities for themselves, for their spouse, and for children. So that's the key method that is being used. This disclosure of what you have. Disclosure when you become a public officer, disclosure after you cease to be a public officer, and during the period of time when you're a public officer. So that's the key, that's the essential aspect of it. Could you go back to the other one? So in addition to having the Integrity Commission, you have investigative officers. So these are officers who are going to be able to go out and basically investigate in a similar fashion to how a police officer would investigate issues. There's also a panel, ad hoc panel, which belongs to the president, where if an officer does something that you feel is illegal, that you can bring the person before that committee. So the other persons who are meant to be involved in this whole process include the Commissioner of Police, the Director of Public Prosecutions, likely the investigative officers initially will be police officers, and also you have the marshals play a role, and then you have the magistrates court as well as the high court. So that's the whole structure. All of these institutions are meant to be involved in the process. So now we can go on to the next slide. So how does this bill seek to ensure that there's integrity? So there's a declaration of financial affairs by specified individual. So it's either to the Integrity Commission, as I pointed out before, and includes members of parliament, as well as to the president or the president's panel. The members of parliament must also file a statement of registrable interest. whether they're directorships, contracts, etc. There's also a requirement to report gifts over $2,500. There's a code of conduct